Burgers are still bad, but like when it comes to like the actual food, it just I would rather have a very small portion of that food because of how bad it is.
Rachel, do you get choice? I mean, is it all equally bad, or what makes the choice for?
There is choice on the every day, but within the week there's always choice. Yeah, it's just the same as usual.
And what about the portion sizes? Are you getting enough food to fill up for your day for your day at school?
No, the portion sizes are tiny because you're going to do like
And Shannon, are they hot? I mean, are they taking it in a way? Is it something you think sort of ready to get? Sometimes you sort of look forward to getting some food, or maybe food at all, but does it make a difference to the quality of your day and how you can focus on things, or whether you've got energy for things or whatever?
Well, usually if I eat, yeah, I have like energy to then like work, or sometimes I eat the food and I get so ill that I can send it because I'll be like getting the food.
What's actually making you sick?
Yeah, the food is so bad that sometimes I think I ate something like something that was there and it will like make me so sick that I sent home.
But Angel, we say that Chartwell company provides the food. Says that the school has said that the food there is improving. Have you noticed that?
It's that portion sizes are what's going on. Then it's something to say like the quality of the food. There ain't issues.
Can I ask you about this? If I was to give you a lovely salad or a big plate of vegetables, would you choose that? If you went out for your meal?
Yeah, the salad always.
And what difference, Terry, what do you say?
I don't eat fruit and veg, and I would take that off a person.
And do you think it makes, what difference do you think, Shannon, if I'm going to ask you, what difference does it make to the whole school experience? Do you think that you're getting, I mean, does it make your day worse? Does it make enough energy and focus for your day? Shannon, Terry, really appreciate you getting up so early to talk to us this morning. We're going to be speaking to more education secretary Justice Greening in about 10 to 8, and also Dan, Chief Executive of the Paris Federation of these issues. I should also say that Charles faces specific challenges in this school, which we're working urgently to address. Keep working with the teacher. 3 minutes to 7. Elizabeth, please see you.
Hello, good morning. Again, it's a mild start to the day. It's going to be well settled, so rain around at times, and then it's going to dry, brighter from the west. So for Scotland, mild start. We've got snow levels of around 600 to 800 metres, rain and more, and the western coastal around 6 sunny spells and a few showers a bit later. Wind developing. The Northern Ireland, quite a decent day actually. It's a mild start. It's cloudy, some patchy rain, but it will turn to later. Northern England and Wales, some really heavy rain towards the north and the west. But again, it's mild. There's lots of cloud around. It will stay quite cloudy through the day, but maybe some patchy spells later. Again, some bits of rain. Further south, but then again, mild start, some clouds, sunny spells, and some showers breaking out through the day. There will be thunderstorms for East Anglia, central southern England later. Temperatures generally cooler than yesterday.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Next week on Radio 14, keep bringing us laughter and lyricism.
The poetry series that goes off the rails.
by the Liberal government at the general election. What do they think of politics? You are listening to Today on BBC Radio 4 with Justin Webb, Ian Taunton and Simon Jackson. It's 7 o'clock on Friday the 15th of March. The headlines this morning. Russians are voting in presidential elections spread over 3 days with no real challenges. Vladimir Putin is expected to win by a landslide. Israel has rejected the latest Hamas proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza as unrealistic. The Conservative Party has refused to confirm or deny whether it's received more money from a donor at the centre of a racist attack. This news is read by Karen Nichols.
The people of Russia are going to the polls for presidential elections where the incumbent, Vladimir Putin, is all but certain to emerge victorious and extend his term in power by a further 6 years. The vote is taking place over 11 time zones and will continue until Sunday. Territories occupied or influenced by Russia in Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia are also taking part. Mr. Putin faces little opposition with only 3 uncritical contenders permitted to stand and his rivals either dead, in prison or in exile. Our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg is following developments in Moscow.
The Kremlin tightly controls Russia's political system, and that includes elections. So Vladimir Putin's re-election is not in doubt. By the end of this 3-day event, he's expected to be declared the winner by a landslide. But Kremlin critics say the procedure is neither free, fair, or transparent. There are no meaningful opposition challenges on the ballot. Mr. Putin's fiercest political rivals are in exile or in prison. Vladimir Putin is already the longest-serving Kremlin leader since Joseph Stalin. He's been in power in Russia as president or prime minister for nearly a quarter of a century. The Kremlin will use another Putin victory to claim the biggest popular support in Russia, the direction in which he's taken the country, and for what Vladimir Putin still calls
the bar is raised, and we've got major issues internally as to how we validate that photo. We shouldn't have violated our guidelines, and therefore we sent out notes to all our team that are not to be so we should be more vigilant about the content coming across our desk, even from what we would call trusted sources.
Peter Hunt was listening to that former BBC Royal Correspondent. Morning, Peter.
Good morning.
It's a new world.
It is a new world, and it's a new world for the royals, and it's a new world for the media. We shouldn't lose sight before I talk about the media, but in that same interview, that senior person from AFP mentioned the British monarchy in the same breath as the so-called axis of evil, which is a good look, is it, when he says that, or said that they previously killed pictures only from the North Korean and Iranian news agency. I mean, for the media, you've got AFP there acknowledging that they've got major issues internally, that they validated the photo that they shouldn't have done. So clearly it shows that them and maybe others had a bar that was perhaps too low when it came to photos that came from this sort of source. I mean, Associated Press, as we know the last few days, they have on their website that pictures must always tell the truth, and the content of a photo shot-posted picture shouldn't be altered by Photoshop or by any other means.
If they change the way they treat the royal family and deal with the royal family, is that a signal, do you think, for us more widely, obviously particularly in this country and indeed the BBC, to think again about how we do?
Well, I mean, I suppose it would be, the BBC, as you know, Justin, has made a considerable focus on this issue of transparency. The BBC constantly talks about transparency being an essential element in ensuring audiences feel they can trust BBC journalism. So, one way that BBC could show that, the broadcasters have a royal cameraman. It's a person who is paid for by the BBC Sky and ITV. And this would be an opportunity for the BBC to make clear to its audiences that the material that individual provides for audiences is material that they control, that it's not edited by the palace, not controlled by the palace, and they can make clear that the sound that is picked up by that cameraman operating on behalf of broadcasters isn't interfered with in any way either as well. So, it is an opportunity for the broadcasters to follow this.
But a lot of royal coverage, though, it is controlled by the royal family, isn't it? And that's a simple fact. I just wonder whether you think there will be, or indeed whether there should be, pulling back from that situation.
Well, I think it's what's known as a pull system, which is familiar to anyone who's worked in politics. The same as with royals, it's a system that Harry and Meghan particularly grew to dislike, but it's a system I think that both sides say works, whereby one person, a cameraman or a reporter or photographer, is there to cover and 2016, I think it was, expressing concern, which was the Those That Heads Together campaign. It was about focus on mental health, and they were producing videos that were from behind the scenes, and that's always very attractive to broadcast and others, isn't it, when you have access behind the scenes. Well, the BBC at the time was concerned that we shouldn't be filming an outside agency, outside camera people, which is what was happening.
Peter, thank you very much for talking to us. It is 16 minutes past 7. A controversial scheme incentivising home heating companies to install more heat pumps has been postponed until next April. Felicity Hannah has more details on this.
Yes, this is the Clean Heat Market Mechanism, snappy, designed to push heating manufacturers towards lower carbon options by fining them if they don't increase their proportion of heat pump sales. Now, as Simon says, it's been pushed back a year after quite a lot of feedback from the companies involved who warned it could increase prices for all consumers. Charlotte Lee is CEO of the trade body Heat Pump Association. Charlotte, good morning.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you for having me on
Thanks
today.
for joining us. Big manufacturers who are members of yours, like Balham, like Mr. Bosch, they've lobbied quite heavily against this scheme. They say the targets are unrealistic, are they?
So, we are in a unique position as the HPA to represent both obligated and non-obligated parties of this, all of whom over recent years have invested collectively millions of pounds in gearing up the supply chain to support the anticipated acceleration of heat pump installations. And I think what's really clear across the board from all the members is in order to drive that, in order to drive the acceleration, we need clear, consistent policy, and that's what we're calling on the government today.
So what is it you want then? Are you concerned that perhaps this change today, this pushback until next April of this policy, is actually the government getting ready to scrap it?
Well, that is not what they've said, and I think that's a really important clarification to make here. So what they've noted is a delay, and not a cancellation. And what that delay does, which arguably was inevitable due to the uncertainty over recent months and the timing issues relative to laying the required legislation. So it is a delay, not a scrapping. And the key here is for government to use this additional time to ensure that the mechanism functions properly, so it introduces functioning processes in a transparent manner to support the delay of the mechanism in a fair and accurate way, and that's what we're calling on the government to use this delay to do.
Okay, the delayed scheme is the stick. For householders, there's also a carrot, isn't there? There are grants worth up to £7,500 available. Today they've been made available to a wider number of households. Is that going to shift the dial? Is that going to change consumer demand?
So we've seen a really big increase in the interest in that grant scheme since it was increased from £5,000 to £7,500 back in September, and the announcement yesterday to remove the requirement to have pre-existing loft and cavity wall insulation in place prior to being able to access that grant is another step along the way of simplifying the process towards moving to the lowest carbon heat solution.
Are we on track then?
So we need to see a tenfold increase across the next 4 years in order to reach the 600,000 target that the government have reaffirmed on multiple occasions. And I think the big key here is, and the big policy enabler that we are calling for, is for the government to take meaningful action to rebalance the price of electricity relative to gas, as they've committed to do in line with the Skidmore review, but that will make the lowest carbon heat the lowest cost heat and further support this acceleration.
Charlotte Lee, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. 90 minutes past 7. When you travel around Somerset, where we are this morning, you're left under no doubt at all about how wet it is, how wet it has been. Lakes that may or may not be normally in place. Trains in some places who need to cut through water on both sides of the track, standing water in fields, and an impact on farming that is clear and last seen on the waters. They've been to Udall, is from the Development Board, which is just the survey. Areas sown with crops around the UK. They found a very big reduction in the amount of crops being grown.
So a survey of crop planting areas this year has shown a 15% reduction in plant area to just over 1.46 million hectares. The reason that's an issue is because farmers are not able to produce and plant as much crop as they're expecting to, and therefore their incomes are going to be falling because they don't have as much crop. But also we're seeing the other effect, they're seeing quite a positive reduction because of the high inflation we've seen over the last couple of years flowing through their business. Long term, this is something that we feel poses a risk because of the extremely volatile climate that we've seen recently in terms of the amount we're going to be able to produce for ourselves. So it's a real risk longer term as well, self-sufficiency and therefore to our food security. That was David Udall. Let's talk Ian Graham, who's an arable farmer working between Glastonbury and Bridgewater on the Somerset levels, not far from where I am this morning, a member of the Somerset's NFU board as well. So very good morning to you. Good morning. It's a rather lovely morning at the moment, isn't it? But I think it is going to rain most of the day. My goodness, you've seen more of your fair share of it.
Here we have more travelling.
And what has it meant for you in terms of your ability to use the land that you farm?
Our crop planting is down probably 20%. Our acreage, which should have been planted to winter beans, hasn't been planted just because it's been so incredibly wet. So we're no longer planting those. We'll have to do something else with them. I'll put it into SFI currently for the Sustainable Farming Incentive to try and get some guaranteed output from it, really.
Right, so what does that actually involve for the land?
It is going into a urban lake, so which is grass mixed with full of herbs, with chicories and lots of things that we'll use for our livestock. And that'll be 1/5 of our acreage, really, just so we've got some guarantee output from the ground, because with the winter it just doesn't work. The winter beans are very
In proportionate terms, what's it meant for you financially?
It's difficult to quantify, but what it does mean is I've got guarantees going under the list. I know where I am, so we're accordingly.
We were in Redmore, not far from you. Yes, I've been talking to a farmer there. He was making the point that we were looking at water in his field, and he was making the point that the worst thing now that could happen for him, whether you agree with this, is a high price, which is sort of counterintuitive, but explain why that is.
The problem is when you have got looking at field sheets, field of wheat, probably for at least 10% of our area where crops completely fallow, and there'd be another 20% of it which is looking stressed and unhappy. And it just, that stressed area, the area was good. But the depth to which went in was the plant went of a unit to being able to depth over the winter, so that now stops raining and goes on like it has done the past few years. The crops will, I don't think they fail, but their output will be massively reduced because they won't be able to feed themselves, they won't be able to get to water, they won't have the ability to do that.
Okay, it is a pretty grim picture. Let us see what the summer does bring. Thank you very much for taking the time this morning to talk to us in between Glastonbury and Richmond. From sunny Somerset to
Morning. What a day at Cheltenham Festival yesterday. Two of football's most charismatic football managers. So Alex Ferguson and Alex as owners in more than 20 years of shine. So Alex took us back-to-back. And the next race, the former West Ham and Tottenham boss Harry Redknapp with his horse, Shake On the tips yesterday.
To have a winner at Cheltenham, Roger, at the festival, that is special. Me and Alex were great pals and had so many great days together in the football. Even watching the racing in his office at 2:15 before 3 o'clock kick-off. And we've both had a great day today.
That was day 3 and it surely whetted our appetite for the great days on the British sporting calendar. The Cheltenham Gold Cup. John Hunt will once again be commentating for 5 Live and BBC Sounds, and he joins us now. Morning, John.
morning to you. Good morning.
Now, nothing against the Irish trainer Willie Mullins, who's setting new records and standards of excellence for Cheltenham, but those Ferguson Redknapp results were just a tonic for British race girls, weren't they?
I think so, yes. Mullins' winners have been greeted with a certain clinical element, but yesterday there was a real lift to the whole occasion, and of course celebrity owners always like that, especially football, such a popular sport amongst racegoers as well. So yeah, people latched onto this very, very quickly. Ferguson's beaming smile, I saw Redknapp taking selfies with all sorts of people, including some of the medical staff at Cheltenham yesterday afternoon, and he clearly loves the game, John. You could just hear that from the short of the interview you heard there. So it was a special day were that they came at the highest level, Group 1 level. So that's a clear indicator that Dan Skills and son of Olympic gold medalist, of course, Nick, has clearly broken through to the highest levels of training and program.
And so to the World Cup, clear favourite his last year's winner, Galopin Des Champs, trained by William Mullins. Which of his 11 rivals are going to upset the odds, or can hope, I should say?
Well, I suppose the most obvious one against Galopin Des Champs is fast or slow. He's a horse who was beaten by Galopin Des Champs when they last met in Dublin back in February, but fast or slow has twice before beaten Galopin Des Champs. So I'm sure that Martin Brexel, who trains him, will be confident that he can get very, very close. Yesterday with Tiamu, he has a really nice horse called Jericho as well. So I suppose, looking at it in the form today, those two are the two most significant threats to last year's record.
John, thank you very much indeed. Go well, so boys, because 5 hours coverage and Beach and Sun starts from 1 o'clock. Just to say, Liverpool, West Ham had big wins last night, reaching the quarterfinals in the Europa League. Aston Villa did the same in the Europa Conference League. Rangers, though, tips there. Chelsea 210, number 16 was Scottish, and then the goal number 9, 30, Balham. Jonathan, thank you.
BBC Saturdays at 9, award-winning podcast, My dearest, brightest, shining light, celebrating modern success, your very best, radios, with me, Larry, Kate, Sammy, Darwin, Juicy, Limits No Limits, Celebrating Women, Where to Be a Woman is the podcast celebrating the best of women's well-being. We're on a quest to find out where in the world are women living their best lives. Listen on BBC Saturdays.
The weather, largely cloudy first, shows few bright spells may develop in the west later as we move away. Indeed it is. Coming up before 8 o'clock, we'll talk more about the school meals having improved with the weather. Adam,
Voting has been in the Russian presidential election, which is almost certain to extend Vladimir Putin's term by another 6 years. Ballots will be cast across 11 time zones, including in parts of Ukraine, influenced by Russia. Voting will end on Sunday. The Kremlin is likely to use a victory to justify the war in Ukraine. Israel has turned down the latest terms for a ceasefire set out by Hamas, despite saying there have been positive developments in the talks. There's been growing international pressure for the two sides to reach an agreement involving the release of more of the hostages seized in the attacks on October the 7th. The office of the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said Hamas continued to build unrealistic demands. Officials in Gaza have accused Israeli forces of opening fire on crowds of Palestinians waiting for aid trucks in Gaza City. Hamas World Health Ministry said that at least 20 people have been killed and more than 150 injured. Israel denied opening fire on the crowd and said it was analysing the incident. The Conservatives are facing renewed questions about a wealthy donor who's been accused of making racist remarks about the MP Diane Abbott. The party refused to confirm or deny reports that Frank Hester had made further donations since the £10 million he gave last year. Researchers have found that death rates from drugs or suicide are higher in more deprived areas than in seaside towns. A study by the Health Quality Northwood found alcohol use and having an unskilled job drove up the risk. Rates of deaths in England were highest in Blackpool, and over 6 times the rate in the lowest area market in North London. The communications watchdog often is warning that children are being exposed to violent online content while still in primary school, and that they see it as inevitable and unavoidable. The watchdog has commissioned a series of reports looking at how children find harmful content. It's urging social media companies to strengthen child protection ahead of new guidance being published this spring.
Caroline, thank you. 7:30 is the time. The Prime Minister has told us all pretty clearly there is not going to be an election on May the 2nd, but we know that there will be one, the most likely timing being the autumn, and we're concentrating for this program visiting some of the constituencies around the nation. Visits we've done already, so we can get a sense of what the issues are, and if there are any surprises in store for any or all of the political parties in this electorate that seems, generally speaking, I've chosen well.
like the rest of the southwest, there's been quite a lot of migration outside of London during the pandemic, so that puts a strain on public services here. And of course, councils are struggling here like they are in a lot of the country. But with it being such a rural area, those transport links can cost more than if you were in an urban area. So transport is a huge issue, and that strain on things like the NHS, finding a dentist appointment, all the things that we hear people talking about, this constituency will feel that just as much as any other.
Right, let us walk a short distance now to the bus station, because the bus station, although it's a very small bus station, is hugely important in the politics of Wales and looks as if it's going to have quite a big importance when it comes to the general election. We're here to talk about the wider bus service here because there is a lot of concern about it. It's probably fair to say about it, and I'm joined by three people who use the buses. They're possibly, it's fair to say, different ends of the day.
My baby's Janet, and I live here in Wales. I'm Katie, and I live in Rugby Stoke. I'm Izzy, and I live in Rugby Stoke as well. I use the 96 bus to get to school every day because we live kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Tell me about the bus journey that goes wrong then, or is it the journey itself, or is it just that there isn't one? What's happening?
There's only a bus every 2 hours, so in the mornings, one day it will like 5 to 8, and then the next day it will like 1 to 6. So it's really unpredictable.
Do you ever miss school as a result?
Sometimes it is like Wednesday to school, which, yeah,
Because I noticed you've been allowed to talk to us today. You've got some time off school, so otherwise the school obviously thinks seriously that this is an issue.
yeah, I think it is quite a big issue, especially I'm doing my GCSEs this year, so getting into school late and missing tutor time, which is not great when I'm getting into school later, so it doesn't really work.
As we speak, Janet, the bus has pulled in. It's stopping here. It's the only bus in the bus station. Do you have a sense of what it is that you want to achieve?
Reliability, because I had one bad experience when I went for a medical visit and I came to wait for the bus to come back, it just didn't turn up. So when I did have another hospital appointment,
it's also going to be fought on new boundaries, which is going to change things.
Change things how, do you think?
Well, around 45,000 of the voters who are currently here are going to stay in what will become the Wells and Mendip Hills constituency, and then others are being brought in. So the Rawlings and Thrasher notional results say that actually increases the Conservative majority here and means that the Liberal Democrats need a bigger score to be able to win the seat. But if you look at places like Frome, those by-elections, it's well within their reaches.
We've got 20 minutes outside Wales now to Paisley Farm. This is a rural constituency. There are plenty of farms, and we've been invited into one.
My name is James Hall. I'm a dairy farmer here in the south, just outside of Wedmore. We work through two daily astronaut robots.
Take us upstairs so that we can be in your office and look across, not just at the room, but also at the house.
We're stood on the balcony looking down onto around about 15 lactating cows. We're sat on top of two robots, one on our left and one on our right. These cows don't go out. They are housed 365 days a year. It's a robotic area. What happens is we allow them to visit the robot when they want to. There's no human involved. Generally, as long as you've got the right balance, enough food on the outside and the space to lie down, enough water and enough free space on the robots, they will pretty much do it themselves.
You're in the Wales constituency. This will be area. How important would your concern to be, do you think, in the constituency?
We're a fairly rural area, so there are lots of farmers in this area. For me, I think big things is food security, labour shortages, the fact that we are now no longer flat cap straw chewing farmers. We actually are data driven professionals, but unfortunately we're probably one of the only industries that aren't treated as professionals.
Are the politicians listening? I mean, they'll listen locally, presumably, but can they get their message across nationally or get your message across?
I'd like to say that we have pretty good candidates here. We're going to listen to them for the next 6 months, promising everything that they're going to deliver, and unfortunately they all come round, they all listen, they all take it on board. How they can then go back to Westminster and get the rest of the MPs to agree. I mean, to be fair, I'm not blue, I'm not red, I'm not orange, I'm not green, all the rest of it. And when I look at the candidates that will put themselves forward over the next few months to run for MP, it'll probably be the one that I actually can engage with and believe they're going to do the right and best thing for us.
Terrific sketch there of the situation down in Somerset ahead of the election. Who knows when? It won't be on May the 2nd, as the newspapers today say. There's a cracking picture, in fact, on the front page of the Telegraph, which shows Alex Ferguson punching the air as his horse romps to victory at Cheltenham, flanked by Harry Redknapp and the creator of the Teletubbies, looking not unlike the Teletubby himself in that picture. But elsewhere, the future of the Daily Telegraph itself makes news. The Financial Times, amongst others, carries the story that basically having effectively Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in fact blocked, killed off a deal for a investment fund bankroll 75% by Sheikh Mansour, Manchester City owner, and also the Vice President of the United Arab Emirates, from buying the Telegraph, saying that now what? They're saying Redburn IMI, which is the fund that he's sponsoring, is leaning towards a full sale of the Telegraph Media Group, following that decision to block effectively the Abu Dhabi bid. Previous bidders, including a consortium led by hedge fund manager Paul Marshall, the Daily Mail owner, the MGT, others have indicated interest, so we'll see where that one goes from here.
There was a rather delicious take on that story in the Eye, basically the feud between Andrew Neil and George Osborne. George Osborne was working for Redburn, but Redburn insider telling the Eye George Osborne has failed to make this work. He was brought in to land this deal precisely because he's thought to be able to manage Tories, and he knows the media business, and Andrew Neil having a good old go at him as well. We're putting a little shrine up to George Osborne, the CNN boss was behind it as well, because of this totally cat-handed attempt to handle the takeover, attempt to give us greater protection from foreign governments than we've ever had before. One other story is worth mentioning in a couple of the papers, but possibly we haven't made as much as we might, certainly according to
Ed Lucas, the author of The New Cold War, Putin's threat to Russia and the West, who writes often about Russia.